Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world without buzzing radiators, blinking thermostats, or the smug comfort of central heating. You're in a little wooden house where the cold has a personality, sly, patient, and just a little bit rude. It seeps in through the cracks in the shutters, curls under the door, and pokes you awake long before sunrise. Outside, a frost-bitten dawn hovers over the rooftops like a sleepy ghost, and inside, you're cocooned in blankets that feel a little too thin for what's coming. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And in the comments, tell me where you are and what time it is for you right now, because I want to know if you're shivering in sync with our little 14th century village here. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake to the faint crackle of ice forming on the inside of the window panes. Not snow. Snow would be merciful, muffling, and soft. This is sharper. The air is thin and brittle, the kind that makes your nose ache with the first inhale. Somewhere outside, a rooster is doing its best to announce the morning, though even it sounds reluctant. Your breath leaves tiny clouds in the air, and when you pull back the wool blanket, the cold licks your skin like a warning. The village is already awake. You hear a slow creak of wagon wheels outside and the muted thump of boots on frozen earth. These boots aren't modern, weatherproof miracles. They're stiff leather, worn soft in some places and cracked in others, lined with scraps of wool that have long since flattened. You slide your feet into yours, the cold immediately seeping through the soles, and step outside. The sun is barely a rumor on the horizon. Instead, the world is painted in shades of gray and blue, the frost making every surface shimmer like it's been dipped in powdered sugar. The smell is clean, almost metallic, as if the air has been scrubbed overnight. You catch sight of your neighbors already moving about, some with baskets, some with axes, all moving with that quiet urgency that winter inspires. A historical tidbit drifts into your mind. In many medieval villages, people didn't rise at dawn in summer, but in winter, the cold itself became the alarm clock. They had to use the limited daylight to prepare. There was no flicking a switch after sunset. And as you watch the villagers' breath curl into the air, you realize every moment counts. One old man passes by, leading a small donkey with a bundle of straw on its back. His beard is white not from age alone, but because frost has already woven itself into it. He gives you a nod as if to say, "Come on, there's work to do," before trudging on. Historians still argue whether early villagers welcomed winter's slower pace or dreaded it entirely. Some evidence suggests it was a season of rest after relentless summer labor, while other records tell of famine and bitter cold that made survival an exhausting fight. Here in this frozen dawn, you feel it's probably a little of both. The main path through the village is a patchwork of mud frozen into ruts, the edges sparkling with frost. Roofs wear a thin crown of ice. Smoke curls lazily from a few chimneys, proof that someone had the luxury of lighting their fire before stepping outside. You think about your own hearth back inside and the meager pile of kindling you've got left. It's not panic yet, but it's a reminder. A small, almost comical sight catches your eye. A boy chasing a chicken that's clearly not in the mood to be chased. His mother shouts after him in a voice muffled by a scarf wrapped high over her face. The chicken flaps, the boy laughs, and for a moment the cold doesn't seem so sharp. And here's a quirky little fact. In some parts of northern Europe, villagers would actually knit or sew little woolen coats for prized hens to keep them laying through the winter. Imagine a chicken in a sweater, ridiculous but also kind of practical. You head toward the edge of the village, where the frost is thicker and the air feels even quieter. In the fields, stalks of last season's grain stand like brittle bones. A few people are out there, cutting what's left and tying it into bundles. It's not much, but when winter's in charge, every scrap matters. You join them, your hands quickly numbing even through your gloves. The work is steady, unhurried, but constant. Breath in, cut, bundle, tie. Breath out, watch it vanish into the air. Someone cracks a joke in a low voice, and you hear a chuckle travel down the line. The humor is dry like the stalks you're cutting. It doesn't need to be big to be appreciated. The sun finally makes a shy appearance, spilling pale gold over the frost. It's warmer by the tiniest fraction, enough to make your shoulders unclench. You pause, standing in the field with your bundle, and look back toward the village. It's a picture you could almost fall asleep in: slow-moving figures, curling smoke, the occasional bark of a dog. The cold will be worse tomorrow and worse still after that, but for now there's work, there's community, and there's the steady, quiet rhythm of a place preparing for the long season ahead. By midday, the frost has loosened its grip just enough for the earth to give off that faint, damp smell, almost like it's sighing in relief. You're back in the village now, and the soundscape has changed. It's not the quiet stillness of dawn anymore. It's the soft, muffled busyness of people settling into the heart of their day. Somewhere nearby, you hear the rhythmic chop of an axe, the sound sinking deep into the wood before splitting it with a satisfying crack. Each log lands on the pile with a dull thud, sending up tiny clouds of icy dust. Firewood is a kind of currency here, every piece a little investment against the nights ahead. You stop for a moment, letting the steady rhythm lull you. It's the sort of sound that could put you to sleep if you weren't so intent on watching. Beside one of the cottages, an older woman is shaking out a thick wool blanket, the fibers catching the weak sunlight. It's patched in more than one place, but that doesn't matter. Warmth isn't about appearances. You remember reading that in medieval times, even the wealthiest households reused fabric until it was little more than rags. For poorer families, each scrap was precious. They'd sew old cloaks into blankets, turn worn tunics into pillow stuffing, and even use frayed rope ends for insulation in drafty walls. The smell of something earthy drifts past, boiling roots, maybe, or a thin vegetable stew. In a season where fresh food is scarce, the meals are simple and humble, but somehow they carry more comfort than a lavish summer feast. People eat slowly, savoring not just the taste but the warmth that spreads from bowl to fingers to chest. You step into one of the cottages, ducking under the low wooden beam of the doorway. Inside, the air is warmer, scented with smoke and damp wool. The single-room space is crowded but tidy, the hearth glowing with a modest fire. The family here moves quietly around each other in the small space, like they've practiced this choreography their whole lives. Someone stirs the pot over the fire. Another mends a shirt in the corner, her fingers moving in small, neat stitches. A child sits cross-legged on the floor, carving a little animal from a scrap of wood. Life here isn't fast. It isn't flashy. But it's layered with these slow, quiet moments that fit together like pieces of an old quilt. Nothing wasted, nothing rushed. Later, outside again, you follow the narrow footpath toward the frozen stream at the edge of the village. Its surface gleams under the thin sunlight, and the air feels sharper here. A group of women are kneeling on the bank, breaking through the thin ice with sticks to reach the water below. They dip buckets, fill them, and carefully carry them back toward the cottages. It's slow, careful work. Spill too much and you'll have to come back again, losing precious time and warmth. You pause to watch the way the ice catches the light, tiny prisms scattered across its surface. The sound of the women's voices is low, almost a hum, like they know the cold will carry their words far if they speak too loudly. By late afternoon, the sun is already drooping toward the horizon. Shadows stretch long across the frost-hardened ground. This is the part of the day when everyone starts thinking about the night ahead. Not in a fearful way, but with the steady acceptance of people who have done this every winter of their lives. Fires are stoked higher, windows shuttered, and the last buckets of water carried inside. Back at your own little place, you add another log to the fire and watch the flames curl and dance. Outside, the cold is gathering itself again, ready to creep in as soon as the light fades. Inside, the walls glow faintly from the fire's reflection, and the room hums with that special kind of stillness that only winter evenings bring. You curl up in your blankets, listening to the muffled sounds of the village settling in, the soft thud of boots on wooden floors, the creak of doors closing, a dog shifting in its sleep. Somewhere, faintly, you can hear someone humming an old tune. It's not hard to imagine drifting off here, your breathing matching the slow rhythm of life outside, the cold kept at bay by just enough warmth, and the promise that tomorrow will begin just as quietly as today did. The night deepens, wrapping the village in a dark, heavy blanket. The air outside feels still, as though the cold itself is holding its breath. Inside, every home has become its own tiny island of warmth in a frozen sea. From your spot near the fire, you can hear the faint pop of sap inside the burning logs, little bursts of sound that seem almost musical in the quiet. In the medieval world, darkness wasn't something people tried to push away with endless light. Candles were precious, firewood had to be rationed, and the night was simply accepted as it was. A time for rest, for dreams, and for quiet conversation. The shadows stretched long and people let them. It's a kind of surrender that feels almost unfamiliar now, but deeply peaceful when you allow yourself to sink into it. In the corner of the room, someone is telling a story. Their voice is low, the words drawn out, not in a hurry to reach the end. It's about a winter from many years ago, one so cold that the river froze all the way to its bed. People walked across it as if it were a road. It's hard to know how much of the story is true, but that doesn't really matter. Here, stories aren't just entertainment, they're warmth for the mind, something to gather around as much as the fire. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the voice wash over you. It blends with the gentle rustle of someone shifting under a blanket, the faint scrape of a wooden spoon against the bottom of a bowl, and the slow, steady breathing of those already asleep. Outside, the wind has picked up just enough to whisper against the shutters. It's not a harsh sound, more like the sigh of an old friend passing by your door. You imagine the snow beyond the village, lying undisturbed in the fields and on the hills, reflecting what little moonlight there is. It feels endless, quiet, and safe. From time to time, the fire dims and someone leans forward to add another log, coaxing the flames back to life. The glow flickers across their face, and for a moment, you catch a glimpse of the centuries-old rhythm this place has always known. Work in the daylight. Rest in the darkness. No rush, no demands, no urgency beyond staying warm and well until the next morning. Eventually, the storyteller's voice fades, and the last of the evening's murmurs dissolve into silence. The only sounds left are the soft breathing of those around you, the occasional shift of a log in the hearth, and the gentle creak of the wooden frame settling into the cold. You feel your own breathing slow, the warmth of the blankets pressing in comfortably around you. In the medieval world, sleep came naturally. There were no glowing screens, no traffic in the distance, no constant pull toward tomorrow's tasks. Just the stillness of night, the weight of the blankets, and the knowledge that the cold was kept outside where it belonged. Somewhere in the dark, a rooster stirs early, mistaking the dim moonlight for dawn. His single call is met with nothing but silence from the rest of the village. Morning can wait. For now, the night is here, and it's a friend you're not quite ready to part with. Slowly, you drift further into that soft, in-between space, where thoughts blur and time stretches. The fire's glow grows hazy, and the last sound you hear before sleep fully takes you is the faint sigh of the wind beyond the walls, whispering its quiet good night. Morning in the village doesn't arrive all at once. It seeps in quietly, the way light finds its way through the smallest cracks in a shutter. Long before the sun climbs above the horizon, a soft grayness touches the snow outside, giving the world a faint outline. Inside your cottage, it is still warm from the fire that was banked the night before. A faint scent of wood smoke lingers in the air, mixed with the earthy smell of wool blankets. The embers in the hearth glow faintly, like tiny watchful eyes that stayed awake while everyone else slept. Someone stirs nearby, pulling a blanket tighter before drifting back into half-sleep. No one in the medieval world woke to the sound of alarms. The day began when it was ready, guided by light, not by clocks. Somewhere outside, a slow rhythmic thump can be heard, perhaps a villager splitting wood for the day ahead. Each strike of the axe is muffled by the snow, turning the sound into a dull, steady heartbeat for the village. It's not rushed. The pace is as unhurried as the winter sun. When the first person finally rises, it's with a quiet awareness, careful not to disturb those still resting. A log is placed on the fire and the room responds with a soft crackle. The heat slowly spreads again, chasing away the chill that settled overnight. On the table, a simple clay pot of porridge waits to be warmed. It's thick and plain, just oats, water, and a pinch of salt. But on a winter morning like this, it's more than enough, filling the belly, warming the hands, and starting the day gently. A few faint sounds begin to reach the cottage from beyond its walls. The creak of a cart wheel, the distant bleat of a goat, the muted call of a villager greeting a neighbor. It's not noisy. It's the sound of life waking up slowly without hurry. You imagine stepping outside for a moment, pulling your cloak tight around you. The cold meets you instantly, sharp and clean, filling your lungs with the scent of fresh snow. The sky is pale, the kind of color that hints the sun is still deciding whether it will truly show itself today. Across the lane, a woman carries a small bundle of firewood to her door. She nods at you without words, just the acknowledgement of two people sharing the same winter morning. From her chimney, a curl of smoke rises, bending and twisting in the crisp air before fading into the pale sky. Soon the rest of the village will wake. There will be work to do, animals to feed, water to fetch, paths to clear. But for now it is still early and the day feels unbroken, fresh and calm. You return inside where the fire has already taken hold again, its warmth inviting you closer. Sitting near the hearth, you let the heat soak into your hands. The porridge is ready, and as you take a slow spoonful, you realize that this quiet, slow beginning is a luxury in itself. The medieval morning asks nothing more of you than to simply be present. There's no need to rush. The village has survived countless winters before, and it will survive this one too, one slow, steady morning at a time. The day begins without ceremony. There are no sudden bursts of noise, no hurried footsteps. Just the gradual, inevitable rhythm of life making its way forward. Someone steps outside with a wooden pail, its handle smooth from years of use. The snow crunches softly underfoot, quiet, but with a sound that feels as old as winter itself. Their breath drifts in the cold air like a thin cloud before vanishing. The path to the village well is narrow, carved by the footsteps of many mornings. The snow on either side rises high, and every so often, a loose flake slips down from a thatched roof, spiraling gently before it lands. The well stands quietly, its stones darkened with damp, the ropes stiff from the frost. The water below will be shockingly cold, yet clear, reflecting the pale morning light. Back in the cottages, another task has begun. Bread dough, left to rest overnight near the warm hearth, is pressed and shaped with steady hands. It is simple bread, just coarse flour, water, and a pinch of yeast saved from the last loaf. The smell is not yet there, but in an hour the entire home will carry that comforting scent. In the small barns, animals shuffle softly. Goats nudge at their hay, chickens blink sleepily, and the cow exhales in a slow, steady rhythm that sends faint wisps of steam curling in the air. There's no rush here. The animals will be fed, the stalls cleaned, and the same cycle will repeat tomorrow and the day after that for as long as anyone can remember. At the edge of the village, a few men have begun splitting logs. The sound is a gentle punctuation to the morning. A thunk, then silence, then thunk again. The wood will be stacked in neat piles, the ends facing out so the air can dry them. Some of this wood will be burned tonight, some weeks from now, some not until the next winter. In the distance, faint voices mingle with the sound of crows calling from the trees. Neighbors exchange quiet greetings, sometimes just a nod. Words are few because everyone knows what must be done, and the work speaks for itself. By now, smoke rises from every chimney, drifting upward in slow, twisting ribbons. If you were to stand in the center of the village, you would smell the mix of wood smoke, baking bread, and faintly damp wool. It is a scent you could carry in your memory forever, even after years have passed. Inside one cottage, the fire crackles steadily while a pot of stew warms on the hearth. It is not for the morning meal. It will cook slowly all day, absorbing the flavors of root vegetables, herbs, and whatever meat could be spared. By nightfall it will be ready, rich and filling. The sunlight finally begins to stretch across the snow, painting it in pale gold. The air remains cold, but the light makes it softer somehow. Everything feels unhurried, and in this world there is no need for it to be otherwise. The day is now fully awake, yet still calm. In the medieval village, time is measured not in minutes or hours, but in tasks and seasons. And in winter the work may be steady, but the pace is always gentle. By midday the village has settled into a quiet hum. The sun sits low in the winter sky, its light filtered through a thin veil of pale clouds. It is not bright enough to warm the air, but it softens the sharp edges of the cold. Paths between cottages are well trodden now, the snow pressed firm beneath boots. A few children move carefully along them, wrapped in layers of wool and linen. Their cheeks are pink from the air, and they speak in voices low enough to blend into the stillness. In the small central clearing, a cart has been left, half covered in frost. Its wooden wheels bear the marks of years of travel, though they have only ever gone as far as the next village. The cart waits patiently. It will be used again when someone needs to fetch grain, firewood, or perhaps news from beyond the valley. The air smells faintly of smoke and fresh-cut wood. Somewhere nearby, the rhythmic sound of a hammer on metal carries through the crisp air. It is the blacksmith, working slowly in the open shed beside his home. His forge burns low, not for large projects today but for small repairs. A hinge for a door, perhaps, or a tool handle that needs refitting. The sound is steady, like a heartbeat for the village. Inside one cottage, a woman sits near the hearth, mending a heavy wool cloak. Her needle moves in slow arcs, the thread whispering against the cloth. This cloak will be needed again and again before winter loosens its hold, so each stitch is made to last. Beside her, a small bundle of herbs hangs from the rafters, drying slowly. They are not for cooking. These are meant for teas and poultices, remedies passed down through memory more than written words. The fire crackles softly in the background, a sound that has accompanied nearly every day of winter here. It does not roar or blaze, it breathes the way the villagers do, slow and even. Not far from the cottage, a man repairs a wooden fence, his gloves darkened by use. He pauses often, leaning on his work, looking out at the snowy field beyond. Nothing moves there except a few crows, their black shapes stark against the white. There is no rush to finish. The fence will be completed today or tomorrow or the next day. Here, time stretches gently, and tasks are not measured by urgency but by persistence. In the distance, the frozen river lies still, its surface pale and dull in the muted light. The water beneath continues to move, though you would never know it by looking. Along the banks, small footprints mark where someone came to gather water earlier in the day. Midday in the medieval village is not loud or busy. It is a pause, a deep breath in the middle of winter's slow rhythm. And while the world beyond the hills may be restless, here the air remains calm. The sun drifts lower, though it never truly climbs high in winter. Shadows stretch long and thin across the snow, and the first thoughts of evening begin to stir. More wood to bring in, animals to feed, bread to slice for the night's meal. But for now the pace remains gentle. The village moves forward in silence, just as it has for centuries, beneath the quiet weight of winter. As the pale winter sun dips lower, its light turns a muted gold, spilling softly over the snow. The air cools quickly now, and a faint mist begins to form in the hollows between cottages. Shadows grow long and reach toward one another, stretching across the narrow lanes until they meet. From every chimney, thin ribbons of smoke rise steadily into the still air. The smell of wood smoke is stronger now, mingled with the faint aroma of stewing vegetables. In most homes, the hearth has been fed with fresh logs, and the flames inside glow warmly against the dimming sky. The villagers move quietly through their final tasks of the day. A man returns from the edge of the forest, his arms full of kindling. The twigs crack softly against one another as he sets them down beside his door. He glances once toward the darkening tree line, then slips inside without a word. Nearby, a small group of children hurry back from the frozen stream, their woolen scarves wrapped high around their faces. Their laughter is muffled, and as they vanish into their homes, the village becomes quieter still. Inside the cottages, the light changes. Candles are lit, their flames swaying gently in the faint currents of air. The glow is not bright, it is soft and it touches only what is near. It turns the rough wooden walls golden, and it makes the shadows dance slowly on the floor. Meals are simple tonight. A thick slice of bread, a bowl of broth, perhaps a piece of dried meat saved from earlier in the season. The food is warm and filling, meant to keep the cold at bay until morning comes again. Beyond the walls, the snow reflects the fading sky. The world takes on shades of blue and silver, and the silence deepens. Even the animals have grown still, chickens tucked into their coops, sheep huddled together in the barn, horses shifting quietly in their stalls. One by one, doors close and the night takes hold. The village is now a cluster of warm pockets in the vast, frozen countryside. Inside each home, the rhythm of the fire and the slow murmur of voices create a steady lull. And so the day ends not with a rush but with a gentle fading. Like a candle burning lower, its light softening until it is almost gone. Outside, the stars begin to appear, faint at first, then clearer against the dark sky. The moon rises slowly, casting its pale light over the rooftops, touching the snow with a quiet silver glow. The village sleeps and winter keeps its watch. The night settles fully now, wrapping the village in a deep, unmoving stillness. The last echoes of conversation have faded behind thick walls, and the wind, if it moves at all, is only a slow, wandering breath through the trees. The snow under the moonlight looks almost like untouched flour, pale and soft, waiting for the first step to press into it. Your breath clouds in the air as you stand at the edge of the lane, listening. There's nothing, no barking dog, no creaking door, not even the flap of a bird's wing. It's as if the world has chosen to pause, to let this moment stretch. Up above, the stars are so bright they feel close enough to touch. You can almost imagine reaching up and plucking one, its cold light melting into your palm. Historians still argue whether ancient villagers really navigated their winters by reading the sky. But here, under this sweep of constellations, you can believe they did. Some patterns have names you recognize. Orion with his belt, the Great Bear wandering slowly, and some have no name at all, just clusters of light, silent and old. A thin column of smoke drifts from one chimney, lit silver by the moon. It twists lazily before disappearing into the darkness, carrying with it the faint scent of pine resin from the fire below. Somewhere behind that closed door, someone shifts in their bed, pulling a blanket higher, turning their face toward the wall. The cold deepens. Frost begins to bloom along the edges of window glass, delicate as lace. Each crystal forms in perfect symmetry, a reminder of the strange, exact order hidden in winter's silence. If you press your hand to the pane, you can feel the slow bleed of heat, the steady reminder that the fire must be fed before dawn. Out in the fields, the snow creaks faintly under its own weight. There is a fox tonight, slipping between drifts, its paws leaving narrow trails. It pauses now and then, ears twitching, before vanishing into the tree line. Old stories say that foxes carry secrets in winter, and if you meet their eyes by moonlight, you might hear one whispered. You almost wish you could follow, but the air is too sharp, and your boots too heavy with frost. Somewhere far to the north, where the land curves toward endless ice, a faint green shimmer lifts across the sky. It's only for a moment, then fades, a curtain drawn and closed again. Whether it's the aurora or simply a trick of the clouds, you can't tell. But you carry the image with you, like something precious seen just once and never again. Back in the village, all is still. The wells are capped, the barns latched, the tools hung neatly in their places. Tomorrow they will be used again, but for now they rest like the people do. And so you walk back through the lane, past the shuttered windows and sleeping doors, your own breath drifting behind you in the pale air. When you reach your threshold, the wood feels cold under your palm. You push it open quietly, stepping into the dim light of the fire, letting the warmth slip around you like a familiar embrace. The fire has burned low now, its bright crackle softened into the slow sigh of glowing embers. The shadows they cast are gentler too, no longer dancing across the walls, but drifting lazily like smoke in a still room. You ease yourself into the wooden chair near the hearth. The wood is worn smooth from years of use, the kind of smoothness that comes only from countless evenings just like this one. Quiet, warm, unhurried. The seat creaks faintly under your weight, not in protest but in recognition, as if it remembers you and the winters you've seen before. Your hands wrap around a small cup of broth, steam curling upward in delicate ribbons. The scent is mild, onions, barley, a hint of herbs saved from summer, and the heat from the cup seeps into your palms, traveling slowly into your fingers, easing away the cold that had settled there. You take a sip, and it's not the taste that matters, but the way it feels as it moves through you, slowly, steadily, a reminder that warmth can be patient and still reach every part of you in time. Behind you the room is dim. The table is set with tomorrow's bread dough, already rising under a cloth. The shelves are lined with jars, beans, dried apples, salt, each one holding a small promise that there will be enough when the snow deepens. The logs in the hearth shift slightly, sending a faint wave of sparks upward. The sound is soft, like rain far away. You let it settle into your thoughts, blurring the edges between wakefulness and the first threads of sleep. Your gaze drifts to the window. The frost there is thicker now, catching the light of the moon like tiny shards of glass. Is beautiful, but you don't linger long. Your eyelids grow heavier with each blink. Somewhere outside, a soft thud. Perhaps snow sliding from a roof. Perhaps a branch finally letting go under its winter weight. It's distant enough to feel safe, close enough to feel part of the night's rhythm. Your breathing slows. The room is warm, the air scented faintly with wood smoke and the clean sharpness of winter. Your chair cradles you. The fire hums low, and the world beyond these walls can wait until morning. The embers in the hearth now glow like small, quiet hearts, no longer fierce, no longer eager, just steady, content to keep their warmth for those who are ready to rest. You've moved from the chair to your bed, a simple frame, a thick straw mattress, and layers of woolen blankets that smell faintly of sun from when they hung outside in the last days of autumn. The room is almost silent. Only the faintest sigh of wind moves against the shutters, like the night itself is breathing in time with you. Somewhere in the corner, the wood of the house gives a soft pop, settling into its own winter sleep. You draw the blanket higher, tucking it under your chin. The weight is comforting, like the steady hand of someone who has lived through many winters, someone who knows that the cold will pass, as it always has. Your body sinks deeper into the mattress, the softness cradling every tired muscle. Your mind begins to wander, but the thoughts are loose, unanchored, the kind that slip easily into dreams. Outside, snow still falls, not in a rush, not in a storm, but in a slow, deliberate drift, each flake taking its time to find its place in the quiet world below. The last light from the hearth reaches your bed in a dim, warm glow. It flickers once, twice, and then steadies, as if it knows this is the time to be still. Your breathing is slow. The blankets are warm. The night is long, but you are safe inside it. You close your eyes. The winter can have the world for now. Your dreams will keep you until morning. You wake before dawn, though not by choice. The faint bleating of a restless sheep drifts through the frosty air, accompanied by the soft crunch of someone's boots outside. Your breath blooms like pale smoke in the dim room, and you take a moment to pull the rough wool blanket tighter around your shoulders. The night fire has burned to embers, but the heat lingers faintly in the clay walls, as though they're reluctant to let go of their borrowed warmth. Outside, the village is caught in that gray, suspended moment before sunrise. The frost clings to the bare branches of the orchard trees, glittering faintly under the first touch of daylight. You hear the thud of an axe in the distance. Someone is splitting logs, each strike echoing like a slow heartbeat. In winter, time moves differently. The urgency is always there, but muffled like a drumbeat wrapped in cloth. A neighbor trudges past your door, a bundle of kindling strapped to his back. He gives a nod, a brief exchange, wordless but full of understanding. You are both participants in the same quiet ritual, stoking life back into the cold bones of the day. Historians still argue whether rural communities truly worked less in winter or if their labor simply shifted indoors, hidden from the records. What is certain is that the rhythm of the village was dictated less by clocks and more by the stubborn needs of survival. You step outside for water, careful not to slip on the icy stones. The well rope is stiff, its fibers frozen in places. Drawing water in winter feels like fishing treasure from the deep. Each drop is precious, and you guard it carefully, knowing the pail could freeze solid if left unattended. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster calls, his voice sharp and ridiculous against the stillness. Returning indoors, you place the water by the fire pit and kneel to coax the embers awake. Sparks leap briefly like startled fireflies before catching on the thin twigs. The warmth grows, slow but determined, licking the pot you've placed above it. Soon, the smell of barley porridge begins to drift through the air, thick and comforting. It's not a feast, but in the cold of winter, its humble heat is worth more than gold. By mid-morning, the village hums in a low, steady way, not the frantic buzz of summer markets, but the muted, deliberate sound of people finding tasks that keep both hands and mind busy. You step outside again, wrapped in your thickest wool, and catch the smell of smoke on the breeze. Not the sharp tang of a cooking fire, but something richer, more resinous. Pine logs burning slowly in the house of the beekeeper at the edge of the lane. You decide to wander that way, boots crunching over the hard-packed frost. A cat slips past you, tail high, fur fluffed against the cold. It disappears beneath a fence, ignoring your quiet greeting. The beekeeper's cottage comes into view, with neat hives tucked under a lean-to roof, each one swaddled in straw for insulation. You've heard her say that bees in the depth of winter cluster in a living ball, shivering their wings to keep warm, a secret little hearth of their own. There's something strangely comforting about the thought, like knowing the earth itself has a heartbeat. She greets you at the doorway, hand-stained a warm amber from handling wax. Inside, she shows you candles she's been molding, slender tapers and squat little votives, each one smelling faintly of summer meadows. You run your fingers over the smooth surface and think about how, in the absence of electric light, flame feels alive in a way you rarely consider. Historians still argue whether medieval households truly relied on candlelight for most activities or if the cost meant most people lived more by fire and moonlight. Either way, you know a candle here isn't decoration, it's survival. The beekeeper talks about the spring to come, her voice a mixture of hope and caution. The winter may yet turn cruel before it's over. You sip a cup of warm herb tea she offers, the steam curling in the low sunlight that filters through her small window. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the hollow thunk of a wooden mallet. Someone mending a fence, working against the slow creep of decay that winter encourages. When you finally leave her cottage, your hands smell faintly of honey and smoke. The path home takes you past the edge of the stream, which has frozen in parts, trapping fallen leaves beneath its cloudy glass surface. A heron stands at the shallows, unmoving as if it too has learned the village art of conserving energy. Back inside, the fire is steady now, the air a little softer with its warmth. You settle by it, stretching your legs toward the flames. There's still work to do, always, but for the moment the rhythm of the day is slow and you let yourself match it. After all, in winter even time seems to hibernate. The afternoon begins to dim, not suddenly, but with the slow, steady fading of light that winter seems to have perfected. The sky is now a deeper gray, the kind that promises snow without making it a certainty. Shadows stretch longer, softening the sharp edges of fences, rooftops, and bare branches. You step outside once more, the crunch of frost beneath your boots almost the only sound. The village is quieter now. Most have gone indoors to tend their hearths, mend clothes, or prepare the evening meal. A faint trail of smoke rises from nearly every chimney, carrying the sense of stewing vegetables, roasting roots, and the occasional whiff of baking bread. Drawn by habit more than purpose, you make your way toward the small stream that winds along the edge of the fields. In summer, its banks are lush with green and its waters dance quickly over stones, but in winter, it moves more sluggishly with thin ice clinging to the edges. A single fallen branch has caught in the shallows, and a dusting of frost makes it look as though it's been dipped in sugar. You pause there for a while, listening. The stream's murmur blends with the far-off sounds of life. The rhythmic thump of someone chopping wood, the creak of a cartwheel turning slowly, the faint lowing of cattle in a distant byre. These sounds are small, but together they feel like the heartbeat of the village. As the light fades further, you return by way of the communal green. The snow there is trampled from children's games earlier in the day, shallow pits, haphazard mounds, the faint suggestion of a snowman whose stick arms have already slumped. The joy of those earlier hours lingers faintly in the air, like the echo of laughter. Back home, you draw the wooden shutter over the window not because the cold demands it, but because the evening invites it. The glow of the fire is gentler now, casting soft, flickering shadows on the walls. On the table, a small loaf of bread rests beside a pot of broth, steam curling lazily into the room. The warmth here feels earned, the kind that settles into your bones, the kind that makes you slow your breathing without even noticing. In a medieval winter, evening was not simply the end of the day. It was a season within a season, a time for gathering close, for letting the darkness outside make the light within feel brighter. The fire has burned low now, the deep orange embers pulsing gently like the steady beat of a resting heart. You lean back in your chair, feeling the quiet weight of the day settle around you. Outside, the darkness has fully claimed the village. The wind is no longer just a whisper, it hums softly against the walls, like a lullaby played on some invisible stringed instrument. You think of the villagers in their own homes, some mending socks by the hearth, others quietly sipping broth, a few already curled under thick woolen blankets. The sounds are muffled, a pot lid settling into place, a faint cough in the next room, the creak of a bed frame as someone shifts their weight. In a world without electric hums or digital beeps, these are the sounds of nightfall. Your own bed waits in the corner, layered in heavy quilts and fur throws. The air above it is cool, but beneath, it will be warm and still. You picture the first moment you'll slip under, the way the heat will wrap around you like an old friend, and the way your breathing will automatically slow. On the table near the bed, a single beeswax candle burns low, its flame a trembling oval of gold. The wax has dripped down one side in slow, frozen streams, marking the quiet passage of time. Soon you'll pinch it out, letting the room fall into perfect darkness. There's a particular kind of safety in nights like these. No messengers to bring bad news, no rush to be anywhere, no glow from an unwanted light spilling through a window. Just the quiet certainty that the night will hold you until morning. Historians still argue whether this rhythm of life made people more content or simply more resigned, but you suspect the truth is a gentle blend of both. The wind outside dips for a moment, leaving only silence. It's the kind of pause that feels like the world taking a breath and you find yourself breathing with it. And now, as the last candle fades, you let the warmth of the blankets rise up around your shoulders. The air is still cool enough to make you grateful for each layer, but not so cold that you shiver. Outside, the wind has settled into a slow, steady hush, no longer a presence, just a quiet backdrop. Your thoughts drift in lazy loops, no longer following the line of the story, but floating between images. The slow turning of a mill wheel, the curling steam from a mug of broth, the glow of firelight against weathered wood. Each image lingers just long enough to soften the edges of your mind before it melts away into the next. Somewhere far in the distance, an owl calls, low, deep, and unhurried. You imagine the villagers hearing it too, perhaps smiling to themselves in their sleep, comforted by its familiarity. You picture roofs dusted lightly with frost, the streams stilled under a thin skin of ice, the fields resting under the long, slow watch of winter. Your breathing is deep now, slow enough that you could almost count the seconds between each inhale and exhale. The room feels smaller, safer, as though the darkness itself has tucked you in. You might stay awake for another minute, or you might already be drifting. Either way, there's nothing left to do, nowhere you need to go. Just the slow turning of night toward morning, the promise that when the first light comes, it will find you warm, rested, and ready. So let the story dissolve here in the quiet. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let the night carry you. Sweet dreams.